guys, it's Joshua Reviews. And guys, Christmas month, oh my gosh, we only have like 3 more movies after this one. And you guys know what movie is next. You guys know. I've covered Silent Night, Deadly Night. I've covered, well, what other Christmas classic is there? I mean, you got Krampus, but it's not like like if we're talking like Christmas horror, it's Black Christmas. There's a reason I'm wearing this Bob Clark Christmas Story shirt. So for those of you not aware, Bob Clark directed both Christmas Story and Black Christmas. Yeah, there's a little trivia for you. He made 2 Christmas classics for totally different reasons. And it just so happens I love both. Yeah, it's no surprise. This film's amazing. Oh man, Black Christmas, where do I start? Okay, so if you don't know the general plot, girls at a sorority house, Christmas break, and they get obscene phone calls from presumably from a guy named Billy. We never see who this guy is. We never even really get a clear, good look at his face. This right here, this is the only real, like, somewhat decent look we get of him. This is it. And one of the girls, this isn't a spoiler, this is literally the main, like, fact. Check out here. It is literally the cover right here. So it's not even a spoiler, but one of the girls, she dies, and we follow the sorority girls and the father of the girl who died. I forget her name, but what is her name? Oh my gosh. Anyways, so the father and the sorority girls basically look for her while also trying to figure out who is calling them random points during the night. Yeah, so that's pretty much the general plot. But the movie, oh man, okay. So this movie has very interesting trivia behind it. Specifically the fact that, fun little trivia, this movie predates Halloween. Yeah, it predates Halloween. This is pretty much the first slasher, or at least the first slasher to like set up like the general like rules and ideas that would later be followed with Halloween and Friday the 13th and all those other movies. Let me start off with the things I like, because there's a lot. First of all, this movie's atmosphere is amazing. This movie, the minute it starts, it gets under your skin, and that's ironically, or unironically, what's the term? I don't know. Ironically, unironically, the tagline for this movie is, if this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. That's a brilliant tagline. But the minute this movie starts, you are met with an eerie song of Silent Night, and it's very ominous. It reminds me of the Mandela Catalog song where they play Amazing Grace. I don't know if you guys know that. Just type in Mandela Catalog, Amazing Grace. You'll know what I mean. It gives me that kind of vibe. This movie's very unsettling. There's something about it that I just can't figure it out. It's the tone and atmosphere, I think. But there's a lot more layers to it. Maybe it's just because the fact we never see who the villain is. And midway through, you're led to believe it's someone else who's doing the killings, but we never really know what's going on. There's so much mystery to this film. The way the characters like talk and describe everything. There's a sense of danger, even though there literally is no danger. I don't know how to describe it, but every time I watch this film, I get uneasy, especially when we get to the last act. This movie is very slow paced, but at the ending, it picks up tremendously, especially with the reveal, which I won't spoil, but it's a damn good reveal of what's going on and why certain events have played out the way they did. One minor spoiler I will say is that, I won't reveal the mystery, but I will say kind of like things will happen, and then the killer, presumably named Billy, well, I mean, his name's Billy. Like, come on now. But after every time something would happen, the phone would ring, and Billy would Billy would answer and give these obscene phone calls. Which, by the way, if I haven't said it already, the phone calls in this film are downright unnerving. They are unnerving. They are horrifying to listen to and very unsettling. I could actually picture myself in these girls' shoes, listening to these phone calls and be like, "What the fuck is this guy on?" I mean, there's a part where I forget the girl's name, but it's this girl right here. She basically mocks the caller and says, you know, why don't you go do this? Why don't you go like suck a cock and whatnot? And he's basically saying all these obscene things, and she's like, "Oh, you fucking creep!" And then and immediately he's like, he has these different voices, almost like a split personality from their perspective, because he's doing a female voice, presumably Billy's mother, and midway through, like, she's saying, "Oh, you fucking creep," like, you know, and that type of thing. Like, she's mocking him, and he's doing all these obscene voice. Like, before he hangs up, he says, "I'm going to kill you." And man, I get goosebumps every time that scene happens because it's so well done. Everything is so well built up in this film. Like, I can't put it into words. It's like every time I watch this film, I get this unnerving feeling, like the sense of dread, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because the fact this film is so well made. The characters are great. If I haven't touched on the characters, I love every single character in this film. They work well off each other. The acting is great, and they're truly believable in the role. I'm really glad that for some of these actors, their career really got off. I don't know if it was because of this film, but I know the actress who plays Jess, she's been in a ton of work, and I'm really happy that she's gotten a chance to show off her acting skills, because she's great. Everyone's great in this film. In fact, I think, this girl right here, Barb, I think her name is, she's in the remake, which we'll talk about next time. And I have thoughts on that one. But no, she does a great job too. I like the fact that she's more charmful and playful. And, you know, you got the girl that I said, you know, she kind of mouthed Billy on the phone. And also something I want to mention is the cinematography in this film is fucking fantastic. I mean, everything in this film is beautifully lit. It gives this warm Christmas atmosphere, but also just there are shots that would be up, like filming from like the staircase, and we'll see almost like a first person perspective from, you know, of the characters, but we don't know if we're looking at it through the lens of Billy or if it's just an interesting angle. Like, we don't know. Every time I watch this film, I feel like the killer is always watching them, and that's what truly, in my opinion, I think makes this movie work. Is there's always a sense of like danger. There's always a sense of that man Billy could always be around the corner, and the kills they're surprisingly not as graphic as you'd expect, but they are so disturbing. There's one scene, and it's the most iconic scene of them all. This part where you finally get a good look at Billy, where he stabs a girl. I won't spoil who, but he stabs a girl with this glass unicorn, and it's so beautifully shot, but also very artistically dark. It's really creepy, and I love it. Honestly, if I had to nitpick if I have any issues with this film, it's probably a little slow in some areas, and I think there are some parts where I'm kind of like, okay, we could cut this, you know. Like, I think there was one scene where they talked to the boyfriend about, you know, the girl's disappearance, and I was kind of thinking to myself, you know, we could have cut this scene and maybe not miss much. Just saying. I mean, he doesn't really play a part into the movie, other than the fact they just kind of acknowledge his existence. But nonetheless, This movie's, it goes without saying, this movie's an A+. This movie's flawless. Honestly, I have some nitpicks, but that's all they are. They're nitpicks. Nitpicks are not something I use to complain about a movie. I don't use nitpicks as a way to tear a movie apart. If I have nitpicks, that's my own personal opinion. I look at what the movie has to offer. And if I like what the movie has to offer, then good. And anything from a technical standpoint, from an acting standpoint, you know, this movie's amazing. This movie laid the groundwork for what was to come. And if, man, I really feel bad because Bob Clark, he's not alive. He's not alive. But if he were alive, I think he'd be proud of what came after this movie and how successful it's become, because this movie really deserves all the praise it gets. Sorry. Nonetheless, movie A+. Goes without saying. Just go watch it. I've rambled long enough. Stay tuned for tomorrow as we review the remake. That should be interesting.